So you say, can I explain to you what it's like to get your record sealed?
Right.
Or expunged, cleaning up your record. Because usually what happens is someone has applied for a job or made an application for a mortgage or a car or some other kind of documentation, or even maybe even college. And on these applications it says, have you ever been convicted of a crime? And people call me and say, hey, how do I answer this question? Well, you have to answer every question on an application truthfully, because if you're faxing it and it's a lie, you've just committed wire fraud. So you can't do that. But most often it's not asking you if you've been arrested, it's asking you if you've been convicted. So if you haven't been convicted, you don't have to say that you were. But the best thing to do is to get your case resolved in a fashion where you're eligible to get your record sealed and expunged. Now there's a difference. Sealing of a record can lead to an expungement. A sealing of a record means that the record has not been physically destroyed, that it still exists in the clerk's website or clerk's computers, and it is searchable by certain law enforcement entities. It's not supposed to be available to the public if it's sealed. And usually what that means is somebody got arrested for maybe a petty crime. Let's just, for an example, the kinds of cases that I often see is either a grand theft or a possession of marijuana, and they went through a diversion program or they completed some probation and they had a withhold of adjudication. When they're finished with their probation, we can assemble the documents that are necessary to send to the state attorney's office to have them complete them when necessary, and we then take that packet, send it off to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to get a certificate of eligibility. That takes between 3 to 6 months to get the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to do that. They send back the certificate, the client completes an affidavit along with a motion that we prepare, submit that to the court, it's reviewed, usually does not require a hearing, and so long as the state attorney's office doesn't object, we get back an order sealing the file. Just because you have an order sealing the file doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be taken off the internet. There's sometimes an extra step that needs to be done, getting your photograph removed from mugshots by sending a copy of the order or other public domains to let them know that there's been an update in your status and to please take that information down by enclosing the court order. If a case is dismissed, you can proceed right away to having a criminal record expunged. An expungement means that the record has been physically obliterated or destroyed. That's the language in the statute, and that you can truthfully state under oath that you've never even been arrested, let alone convicted of a crime, and you cannot be subjected to perjury because you have made that statement because the record has now been destroyed. So you can have a sealed record for 10 years, and then upon 10 years of it being sealed, if there's been no other criminal activity, you can then apply to have it expunged. And we have one of those cases right here where a client over 10 years ago hired me. We resolved his case. He had a withhold of adjudication. We applied and had the record sealed. 10 years have expired. Since he's had no other contact with the criminal justice system, we are now in the process of having his sealed record expunged. And you don't want to have these criminal records because two candidates for the same job who are equally qualified, or maybe even one candidate is more qualified, but if there's a blemish, it causes pause in the minds of a potential employer, especially if the offense is for a theft offense, something that goes directly to a core issue of trustworthiness. That is going to end in somebody not getting a job. So I can appreciate, our goal in every case is to see how we can get the client through it without a criminal record.